Hello, team players. It's time for my second build in my Animal Kingdom party. Let's dive in. So this build's goals are to help the entire party do extra damage and to help deal with ranged attackers, especially enemy spellcasters. We also want to debuff enemies with intimidation to make enemies easier to hit and lower their offenses. For today's Ancestry, we're going with Catfolk, and we're going to be taking the Liminal Catfolk. Unfortunately, the Detect Magic part of the Liminal Catfolk we're not going to be able to use because of our anathema, because we can't cast spells. And the +1 to occultism really isn't going to help us out all that much, because we're not going to have good intelligence. But you could reflavor the Liminal Catfolk to say that it isn't a spell, you just have an innate ability to detect magic so you can avoid it. But that's up to your GM. For our attributes, your most important is going to be strength, and we're going to need high charisma. You might also put some points into constitution to help with your hit points, because you're not going to have as many hit points as if you pick something like dwarf, orc, or unbreakable goblin. But you'll still have really good hit points as a barbarian, so up to you. For skills, athletics and intimidation are going to be your most important. For the rest, you can pretty much pick what you want. But for this particular party, you're not going to need medicine because our alchemist is covering that. But things like nature, survival, stuff like that is going to help a little bit here. But really, it depends on what else the party is playing. As I said earlier, we are going with a barbarian here, and we're going with the superstition instinct. This is why we can't cast spells, as our anathema says we can't learn or cast a spell. Also, while raging, we get a +2 bonus on all saves against magic. Also, we become frightened 1 if we ever willingly accept the effects of a spell, and we can't reduce that frightened condition as long as we are affected by that spell. We also can heal ourselves based on how many hit points we get back when we're raging, but only once every 10 minutes. We are going to have a magic healer in this party, but for this build, we're going to have to rely on the alchemist and his elixirs of life to heal. Otherwise, we could become frightened 1, and we really don't want that. And we're going to buff ourselves with the mutagens that our alchemist will also be able to create. That alchemist is going to be our best friend in combat, period. They are definitely going to help us out. For our level 1 Ancestry feat, we're going to be taking Cat's Luck. Reflex is going to be our lowest save, so having advantage on a reflex save once a day is going to help a lot. And this is going to be true even when we take Canny Acumen later. As for class feats, we're going to go with Raging Intimidation. This allows us to intimidate foes while we're raging, and more importantly, gives us the Intimidating Glare skill feat, which means that we no longer have to worry about creatures understanding us to intimidate them. Also, as soon as we become legendary in Intimidation, we get the Scared Death feat as well, but that's much further down the line. For level 2, I've gone with Sudden Charge, because we want to get right up in those pesky spellcasters' faces. So this will allow us to move twice and attack for 2 actions, which is a big deal. This will definitely make it a lot easier for us to get up to the spellcasters. At level 3, we get a general feat, and we definitely want to take Canny Acumen for our reflex saves here. Reflex is still going to be our lowest save, but it's going to be higher because of this. Without this feat, we don't get expert in reflex saves until all the way at level 9, so we definitely want to pick this up here. For level 4, we're going to be taking a feat called Oversized Throw. As a barbarian, and especially for this build, we need to be able to deal with flying enemies. And this will let us pick up an item that's our size or smaller and throw it at those flying enemies. Without this feat, spellcasters under the effects of a fly spell would definitely be a problem for us. Or really any enemy that has ranged attacks and can fly. Because remember, one of our goals here is to help deal with ranged enemies. For our level 5 Ancestry feat, I've gone with Springing Leaper. We do have to be an expert in athletics to do this, but there's not always going to be items around that we can throw at enemies. So, this will allow us to jump double the distance if we spend 2 actions, and triple the distance if we spend 3. Jumping as 3 actions isn't really going to help us, but jumping as 2 actions means we can jump pretty high and still attack an enemy and then fall back down. And because we're a catfolk, we get to land on our feet ability. So when we land, we only take half the damage and we don't land prone whenever we fall. So we can jump up, attack an enemy, then fall back down. We are going to take a little bit of damage from this, but we're going to take less damage. And we're a barbarian. We have a ton of HP. Plain and simple. We're not going to use this feat often, but it is going to be useful to have when we need it. For level 6, we're taking Reactive Strike. This one's a no-brainer. I mean, those ranged attackers, if they're within our range, we want to be able to hit them if they try to attack us, particularly if they try to cast a spell in front of us. But this also means we can hit them if they try to move away from us. And as a barbarian, we're going to do a ton of damage on critical hits. And since we have Reactive Strike, if we crit on that, then we get to disrupt whatever they're trying to do. Because we absolutely do not want enemies to cast spells on us. And this is going to say no to that. For level 7, if you've been with the channel for a while, you probably know what I'm going to say. Toughness or Die Hard. One of the two. Toughness will raise our hit points and make our death saving throws easier. Die Hard will mean that we die at dying 5 rather than dying 4. Whichever one you don't pick here, you're going to pick up at level 11. You do want both, but you can go with either or at this level. At level 8, we're going to take one of my favorite barbarian feats, Friendly Toss. This allows us to get other melee attackers up to enemies and gives them an extra attack as a reaction. Or we can use it to get our ranged allies away from melee enemies, like for instance our alchemists. Either way, we are definitely helping out with their action economy because now they don't have to move up or away from enemies, which means they can use that extra action to attack, raise a shield, use a potion, something else besides moving, which is a significant deal. Action economy manipulation is about more than just taking enemy actions away. It's also about giving allies extra actions, or at least making it so they don't have to spend their action moving, but rather doing what they want. This feat does have the manipulate trait, which means we are going to take a reactive strike if the enemy has it. But we're taking the strike, not our ally. And as a barbarian, we're going to have a ton of HP, especially with that toughness feat. And good con. We actually have the hit points that allow us to get hit and not have to worry as much. Our other party members might not, especially our more ranged allies, particularly that alchemist. So this will definitely help with everybody's action economy. Well, except ours, because this does take 2 actions. But sometimes it's going to be better for us to get our allies where they need to be rather than attacking. Because this game isn't just about hitting something until it dies, unlike some other systems I know. For our level 9 Ancestry feat, we're going to be taking Luck of the Chowder. Effectively, if we use Cat's Luck, and there's a creature within 10 feet of us that also failed on their save against the same effect, they can re-roll as well. Meaning if you both fail on the save against a fireball, you both get to re-roll. This is a very good feat that needs to be used a lot more than it is. At this level, you also get your raging resistance, and you can pick what you want, but I went with Divine and Occult because those are the ones that are going to debuff you and you really don't want to get debuffed. So having resistance to those is going to help a lot. And the last feat I'm going to talk about in this video is Share Rage, allowing us to add our rage damage to the attacks of our allies, even spellcasters. The best part about this is they can still use concentrate actions, which means spells are still on the table. Granted, they won't cast it on us because Superstition Instinct and our anathema, but they can cast it on everybody else. They also don't get the benefits from our instinct or our feats or anything like that. It's just the base rage damage. But having extra damage is always pretty nice. We're playing a barbarian, so no spells, but, especially with this build, but I will talk about free archetype. Your free archetype for this build is really going to depend on what weapon you're using. If you're using something like a great axe, then Mauler is an excellent choice. If you're using 2 weapons, then dual weapon warrior is what you want. If you're using 1 weapon, which is what I recommend for this build, I definitely recommend you pick up Wrestler, because grappling is definitely something we want to try to do in this build, even though we don't have a whole lot of feats to support that. Not class feats anyway. But Wrestler would let us have some class feats that will support that, and that's going to really help against what this build wants to go against, which is ranged attackers. And that's the build. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like, and subscribe to the channel for more Pathfinder 2e teamwork content. You can also check out the links in the description below for my Patreon and my Discord. You'll especially want to check out my Patreon if you want a path builder for this build. And if you guys are interested in the alchemist that goes with this build, you can check out this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, teamwork is vital. It helps us solve problems.